Ladies and gentlemen, there is a strange tension within the human heart, a yearning for immediacy and an instinct to demand answers now. We are creatures bound by time, enslaved to its ticking, and yet we find ourselves continually reminded that the author of time is not. He dwells in eternity, unhurried, unpressured, and utterly sovereign. This truth, unsettling as it may seem, is the very foundation of our trust in God's timing. To trust Him is to recognize that what appears delayed or denied to us is neither delayed nor denied in the hands of the divine. He is not slow as we understand slowness, but deliberate, exact, and infinitely wise. Let us consider this: when a farmer plants a seed, does he stand over it and demand that it sprout by morning? No, he trusts the process, nourishes the soil and waits, not passively but with a hopeful expectation. So it is with us. God in His timing is planting seeds in our lives, seeds of purpose, of growth, of blessings yet unseen. But oh, how impatient we are. We demand the fruit before the root has even taken hold. Yet patience is not merely the endurance of waiting, it is the posture of faith. To wait is to acknowledge that there is work being done beyond what our eyes can see. Perhaps the door is not yet open because we are not ready to walk through it. Perhaps the answer is not yet given because the question itself needs refining in our hearts. There is a profound surrender required to trust God's timing, a relinquishing of our tight grip on control. It is no easy task to say, "Not my will, but yours." But is it not true that every time we force our plans ahead of His, we find ourselves stumbling over our own short-sightedness? Look back on your own life. How often has the delay turned out to be a blessing? How often has the no paved the way for a better yes? And how often have you, in hindsight, thanked God not for what He gave, but for what He withheld? This is the essence of faith, to trust in the unseen, to believe that His delays are not denials but opportunities for preparation. Trusting in God's timing is to live in the assurance that He is neither early nor late. He is precise. He is perfect. So, my friends, let us embrace the waiting not as a punishment but as a sacred invitation. An invitation to grow, to trust, and to rest in the knowledge that God's timing, though mysterious, is always good. And when the moment comes when the door swings open, the prayer is answered, the promise fulfilled, you will know. You will know that it was not the timing you wanted, but it was the timing you needed. Let us not rush the seasons of our lives, for the God who holds the stars also holds our days. Trust Him, and you will find that His timing is, indeed, perfect. In a world that thrives on instant gratification, trusting in God's timing can feel like a challenge. We want answers now, breakthroughs today, and solutions by tomorrow, but God operates on a different plane outside of time, with a wisdom far greater than ours. What seems like a delay to us is often His way of preparing us. Perhaps the door hasn't opened because we aren't ready to walk through it. Perhaps the prayer hasn't been answered because there is something greater in store. God's timing is not about making us wait aimlessly, it's about growing us purposefully. To trust His timing is to surrender our need for control and believe that His plans are good, even when we don't understand them. It's having faith in the unseen, knowing that every delay, every pause, and every silence is woven into a masterpiece we cannot yet see. So let us wait with hope, live with patience, and trust with confidence. For when His answer comes, and it will be perfect, not according to our schedule but according to His unfailing love. The concept of divine perspective is a profound and humbling reality, often challenging for the human mind to grasp fully. God, in His infinite nature, exists outside the constraints of time as we know it. For us, time is a linear progression, a steady march forward from past to present and into the unknown future. We measure our days in hours and years, tethered to the rhythm of clocks and calendars. Yet God is not bound by these limitations. He sees the entirety of history, the beginning, the end, and everything in between all at once. His eternal nature transcends our understanding, allowing Him to operate with a perspective that is both comprehensive and perfect. From this vantage point, God orchestrates the events of the universe with unmatched wisdom and precision. What appears to us as delay or randomness is, in fact, part of a grander design. The seeming disorder in our lives is not chaos but a deliberate alignment of events according to His purpose. Our limited vision often leads us to question His timing, particularly when we face uncertainty or hardship. We wonder why our prayers go unanswered or why we must endure prolonged seasons of waiting. It is in these moments that the divine perspective becomes crucial. God's view encompasses far more than our immediate circumstances. He sees not only our present needs, but also the ultimate good that can emerge from every situation. The disparity between human understanding and divine wisdom often creates tension. We are naturally inclined to seek solutions and outcomes that align with our desires and timelines. Our finite perspective cannot account for the countless variables at play in God's plan. For example, an event in one person's life may ripple outward, affecting the lives of many others in ways we cannot predict or perceive. A closed door for one individual may lead to an open door for another, creating a chain reaction that fulfills a greater purpose. This interconnectedness, visible only to God, highlights the beauty and complexity of His design. Divine perspective also invites us to reconsider the value of waiting. In our rush to achieve and acquire, we often view waiting as a waste of time or as evidence that something has gone wrong. However, God uses periods of waiting to accomplish work within us that is just as important as the external outcomes we seek. During these times, He refines our character, strengthens our faith, and prepares us for what lies ahead. Waiting can teach us patience, humility, and dependence on Him, qualities that are essential for spiritual growth and maturity. Through the lens of divine perspective, waiting is not a passive state but an active process of transformation. Another aspect of God's eternal view is His ability to redeem what seems broken or lost. Our limited understanding often leads us to interpret setbacks as failures or missteps. We struggle to see how anything good can emerge from pain, disappointment, or loss. Yet God's perspective reveals possibilities that we cannot imagine. He specializes in bringing beauty from ashes and turning trials into testimonies. What appears to us as an insurmountable obstacle may be the very catalyst for a deeper reliance on Him and a richer understanding of His grace. His timing and plans are not confined to our immediate comfort or success, but are aimed at achieving a far greater purpose. The divine perspective also underscores God's intimate involvement in our lives. Despite His infinite scope and authority, He is deeply personal, attending to the smallest details of our existence. This dual reality, God's vastness and His nearness, assures us that His plans are not impersonal or arbitrary. He knows the number of hairs on our heads and the thoughts of our hearts. His timing is not merely about cosmic order, but about His care for each of us individually. When we struggle to trust His timing, it is often because we lose sight of this personal aspect of His love. Remembering that He sees us, knows us, and desires the best for us can renew our confidence in His plans. The challenge of embracing divine perspective lies in surrendering our need for control. Our natural inclination is to plan, predict, and manipulate outcomes to suit our preferences. This tendency stems from a desire for security and certainty. However, true peace comes not from controlling our circumstances, but from trusting the One who controls all things. Letting go of our limited perspective and submitting to God's eternal view requires faith. It means acknowledging that our understanding is incomplete and that His ways, though often mysterious, are always good. In moments of doubt, reflecting on the vastness of creation can help us grasp the enormity of God's perspective. The heavens declare His glory, and the intricate workings of the universe testify to His wisdom. From the movement of galaxies to the growth of a single blade of grass, every detail is under His sovereign care. If He can govern the cosmos with such precision, how much more can we trust Him to govern the details of our lives? His perspective assures us that no moment is wasted, no prayer is unheard, and no circumstance is beyond redemption. It is also worth considering the ways in which God's eternal view is reflected in the life and teachings of Jesus. Throughout His ministry, Jesus often spoke of the kingdom of God in terms that transcended time. He invited His followers to look beyond their immediate concerns and focus on eternal realities. His parables, miracles, and sacrificial death all point to a perspective that values what is eternal over what is temporary. In Jesus, we see the ultimate expression of God's timing and purpose. His arrival on earth, His patience is a virtue often praised but seldom embraced with ease. It is a quality forged not in moments of abundance or ease, but in the crucible of waiting and uncertainty. The human spirit, restless and eager, struggles against the boundaries of time, yearning for immediate results and instant gratification. Patience serves a far greater purpose than mere endurance. It is a divine tool, shaping and molding us into people of faith, character, and wisdom. When we learn to wait, not passively but actively, we align ourselves with a process of transformation that God intends for our ultimate good. The virtue of patience is deeply intertwined with trust. To wait patiently is to trust that there is a purpose in the delay, even when it is not immediately apparent. This trust is not blind, but rooted in the belief that God, in His infinite wisdom, is working behind the scenes in ways we cannot comprehend. Patience challenges us to release our grip on control and surrender to the timing of the one who sees the end from the beginning. It teaches us to rely not on our limited understanding but on God's perfect plan, which often unfolds in ways that defy our expectations. Waiting is rarely comfortable, and it often feels like a wilderness, a place where answers are scarce and doubts loom large. In such times, patience becomes an act of faith. It is a declaration that we believe God is good, even when circumstances suggest otherwise. This faith is not a passive resignation, but an active stance of hope and expectation. To wait patiently is to hold on to the promise that God is at work, even in the silence, and that His plans for us are worth the wait. It is in the wilderness of waiting that our faith is tested and refined, becoming more resilient and mature. Patience also serves as a mirror, reflecting the condition of our hearts. In moments of delay, our true motivations and attitudes often come to the surface. Impatience reveals our tendency to rely on our own plans and timelines, while patience exposes our willingness to trust in God's sovereignty. This process of self-revelation is uncomfortable but necessary. It allows us to confront the areas of our lives where we have placed our desires above God's will. Through this confrontation, we are given the opportunity to grow in humility, recognizing our dependence on Him. One of the most challenging aspects of patience is learning to wait with gratitude. It is easy to become fixated on what we lack, focusing on the unmet desires and unanswered prayers. However, patience calls us to shift our perspective, to see the blessings that exist even in the midst of waiting. Gratitude transforms the experience of waiting from one of frustration to one of worship. It reminds us that every good gift comes from God and that His provision is sufficient for each day. When we cultivate a spirit of gratitude, we are better able to embrace the waiting as a season of preparation rather than a season of lack. Patience is not merely about enduring time, it is about what happens within us during that time. It is in the waiting that God often does His deepest work in our lives. He uses these periods to shape our character, teaching us lessons that we might otherwise miss in the rush of life. Patience fosters perseverance, a quality that enables us to face trials with resilience and hope. It strengthens our ability to endure challenges without losing faith, preparing us for greater responsibilities and blessings in the future. The process of waiting, though difficult, is an essential part of becoming the people God has called us to be. Another aspect of patience is its ability to teach us contentment. In a world that constantly pushes us to strive for more, patience reminds us to find joy in the present. It encourages us to let go of the relentless pursuit of future goals and to appreciate the beauty of the moment. Contentment is not about settling for less, but about trusting that God's provision is enough for today. Patience helps us to recognize that our worth is not determined by what we achieve or acquire, but by who we are in Christ. It frees us from the burden of comparison and competition, allowing us to rest in the knowledge that we are deeply loved and valued by God. Patience also has a relational dimension. In our interactions with others, patience is a reflection of God's love and grace. It allows us to bear with one another's weaknesses, to forgive, and to extend compassion. Relationships often require waiting for others to change, to heal, or to grow. Patience enables us to support and encourage those we care about, even when progress seems slow. It reminds us that just as God is patient with us, we are called to be patient with others. This relational patience fosters deeper connections and creates an environment where growth and reconciliation can flourish. The practice of patience is also an act of worship. It is a way of acknowledging God's sovereignty and submitting to His will. When we wait patiently, we are declaring that we trust Him more than we trust our own plans. This act of submission is a form of surrender, an offering of our desires and timelines to the One who knows what is best for us. Patience is a way of saying, "Your will be done," even when it requires us to let go of our own expectations. It is an expression of faith that honors God and invites His presence into our lives. The development of patience is often accompanied by a deeper sense of peace. When we stop striving to force outcomes and begin to trust in God's timing, we experience a freedom from anxiety and restlessness. This peace is not dependent on circumstances but flows from the assurance that God is in control. Patience allows us to wait without fear, knowing that His plans are good and that His timing is perfect. It replaces the tension of uncertainty with the calm of trust, enabling us to navigate life's challenges with grace and confidence. Patience also prepares us for the fulfillment of God's promises. When we rush ahead of His timing, we often miss the blessings He has in store for us. Impatience can lead to decisions that are driven by fear or frustration rather than faith. By contrast, patience allows us to wait for God's best, trusting that He will provide in ways that exceed our expectations. It teaches us to value the process as much as the outcome, recognizing that the journey itself is a part of His plan. Patience positions us to receive His gifts with gratitude and to steward them wisely. In the broader context of God's plan, patience reminds us of the eternal perspective. It helps us to see our lives not as isolated moments but as part of a larger story. This perspective encourages us to endure temporary struggles with the hope of eternal glory. It reminds us that our waiting is not in vain but is a part of God's redemptive work. Patience connects us to the promises of Scripture, assuring The journey of surrender is deeply personal, yet it also connects us to a greater story. Throughout history, countless individuals have trusted in God's timing and witnessed His faithfulness. From Abraham waiting for the promised son to Joseph enduring years of hardship before rising to a position of influence, the Bible is filled with examples of God's perfect timing at work. These stories remind us that our waiting is not in vain. Just as God was faithful to them, He will be faithful to us. Surrendering to His timing allows us to become part of this ongoing story of faith and redemption. Surrendering and trusting in God's timing also transforms our perspective on life's challenges. When we view delays and detours through the lens of faith, they become opportunities for growth rather than obstacles. Each challenge is a chance to deepen our trust in Him, to let go of our own plans, and to embrace His purpose. Surrendering shifts our focus from what we lack to what God is doing in and through us. It reminds us that even in the midst of uncertainty, His love and presence are constant. As we surrender to God's timing, we begin to experience a sense of freedom. Letting go of control and trusting in His plan relieves the pressure to have all the answers or to make everything happen on our own. This freedom is not a lack of responsibility but a release from the anxiety that comes from striving to control the uncontrollable. Surrendering allows us to live with peace and joy, knowing that our lives are in the hands of a loving and faithful God. Surrendering and trusting in God's timing is not a one-time decision, but a continuous journey. Each season of life brings new challenges and opportunities to practice surrender. With each step, our faith grows stronger and our relationship with God deepens. Surrendering to His timing becomes a way of life, a posture of humility and trust that shapes every decision and every moment. It is a journey of learning to live in the rhythm of His grace, allowing His timing to guide and sustain us in all things. The value of waiting in faith lies in its ability to transform not only the circumstances around us but also the person we are becoming. Waiting, especially when it feels prolonged or uncertain, can be one of life's most challenging experiences. Yet it is in the act of waiting that God often does His most profound work within us. While we may fixate on the outcome or resolution of a particular situation, God's focus is often on the journey itself, on the lessons, growth, and transformation that occur during the waiting period. Waiting in faith, therefore, is not a passive state but an active engagement with God's purpose and promises. Faith during waiting teaches us to rely on God in a way that transcends our understanding. It challenges us to let go of our need for immediate answers and tangible results, placing our trust in His timing and wisdom. In the stillness of waiting, we are often stripped of the distractions and illusions of control that fill our daily lives. This stripping away is uncomfortable, yet it is essential for spiritual growth. It forces us to confront the reality of our dependence on God and to anchor ourselves in the truth of His faithfulness. Waiting in faith also sharpens our ability to hear God's voice. In the busyness of life, it is easy to overlook His guidance and presence. However, the quietness of waiting creates a space for deeper communion with Him. It is a time to seek His face, to pour out our hearts in prayer, and to listen for His still small voice. This intimacy with God is one of the greatest gifts of waiting, as it deepens our relationship with Him and strengthens our trust in His promises. The waiting period becomes a sacred time of connection and reliance on Him. One of the most transformative aspects of waiting in faith is the patience it cultivates within us. Patience is not merely about enduring delays, it is about learning to rest in God's timing and trusting that His plans are good. This trust is not always easy, especially when waiting involves unanswered prayers, unfulfilled desires, or unresolved struggles. Yet patience teaches us to persevere, to hold on to hope even when the path ahead is unclear. It shapes our character, enabling us to face life's challenges with resilience and grace. Through waiting, we learn that God's timing is not about denying us, but about preparing us for what is to come. The value of waiting also lies in the preparation it provides. Often what we are waiting for is not just about the destination, but about the readiness required to receive it. God uses waiting to refine us, to shape our hearts and minds for the blessings and responsibilities He has planned. This preparation may involve healing wounds, strengthening weaknesses, or building faith. Waiting in faith allows us to trust that God's delays are not denials but opportunities for growth. It reminds us that His plans are worth the wait, and that the journey itself is an integral part of His purpose for our lives. Waiting in faith also teaches us to surrender our expectations. We often approach God with a specific vision of how and when we want our prayers to be answered. However, faith calls us to release these expectations and to trust in His will, even when it differs from our own. This surrender is recognizing and accepting that God's timing is perfect requires a significant shift in perspective, one that transcends human understanding and embraces the divine. Life is full of moments where we are tempted to question the timing of events, whether it be the delay of a long-awaited blessing, the sudden onset of an unexpected challenge, or the perceived stagnation of a particular season. In these moments we often wrestle with doubt, frustration, and impatience. Yet the essence of faith is the assurance that God's timing, though often mysterious to us, is flawless and purposeful. God's timing operates on a plane far beyond our comprehension. While we are bound by the constraints of time, He exists outside of it, seeing the entirety of our lives and the intricate connections between every event and decision. What may feel like a delay to us is, in fact, a deliberate alignment of circumstances that only He can orchestrate. His perspective is not limited by the present moment. He sees the beginning and the end simultaneously, weaving together a tapestry that spans eternity. Accepting this truth requires us to trust in His sovereignty and to relinquish our own limited perspective. Trusting in God's timing involves acknowledging His wisdom and goodness. He does not withhold or delay without purpose. Every moment of waiting, every instance of perceived inaction, is part of a greater plan designed for our growth and His glory. This understanding challenges us to shift our focus from the why of our circumstances to the who behind them. It is not about understanding every detail of His plan, but about trusting the character of the One who holds our lives in His hands. His love for us is perfect, and His plans are always for our ultimate good. Accepting God's timing also requires us to confront our own impatience and desire for control. Human nature is often marked by a tendency to rush, to seek immediate answers and quick resolutions. We live in a world that values speed and efficiency, where waiting is seen as an inconvenience rather than an opportunity. Yet God's timing is not governed by human standards or societal expectations. It is rooted in His eternal purpose. which often requires us to slow down and wait. This waiting is not a punishment, but a call to trust, a reminder that He is in control and that His plans are unfolding exactly as they should. One of the most profound lessons of accepting God's timing is the realization that His delays are not denials. When prayers go unanswered or dreams remain unfulfilled, it is easy to assume that God has forgotten or that He is unwilling to act. However, His timing is always purposeful. Delays often serve to prepare us for what lies ahead, equipping us with the strength, wisdom, and maturity needed to steward His blessings. They refine our character, teaching us patience, humility, and reliance on Him. What we perceive as a setback is often a setup for something far greater than we could imagine. God's timing also teaches us the value of dependence. In moments of waiting, we are reminded of our limitations and our need for His guidance and provision. It is a humbling experience to recognize that we cannot control or predict the unfolding of events. This dependence is not a sign of weakness, but a posture of faith. It invites us to lean on Him, to seek His presence, and to trust in His promises. As we wait, we learn to rely not on our own understanding, but on His infinite wisdom and love. This dependence strengthens our relationship with Him, deepening our faith and anchoring our hope. Accepting God's timing transforms the way we approach life's uncertainties. Rather than viewing delays or detours as obstacles, we begin to see them as opportunities for growth and transformation. Each season of waiting becomes a classroom where God teaches us lessons that cannot be learned in moments of ease or abundance. These lessons often involve trusting in His provision, finding joy in the present, and surrendering our own plans. They shape us into people of resilience and faith, capable of facing life's challenges with grace and confidence. Through waiting, we become more attuned to His voice and more aligned with His purpose. The perfection of God's timing is often revealed in hindsight. Looking back on our lives, we can see how He orchestrated events in ways that we could not have anticipated. The job opportunity that came at just the right moment, the relationship that unfolded in His perfect timing, or the unexpected blessing that arrived when we least expected it, all serve as reminders of His faithfulness. These moments of clarity reinforce our trust in His timing and encourage us to continue walking in faith, even when the path ahead is uncertain. They remind us that His ways are higher than ours and that His timing is always perfect. Accepting God's timing also involves embracing His process. Often we focus solely on the destination, the answer to prayer, or the fulfillment of a dream. Yet God is equally concerned with the journey. The waiting period is not a time of inactivity, but a season of preparation and transformation. It is in the process that He shapes our character, strengthens our faith, and aligns our hearts with His will. Embracing this process allows us to find meaning and purpose in the waiting, knowing that it is an integral part of His plan for our lives. The perfection of God's timing is a source of hope and assurance. It reminds us that our lives are not subject to chance or randomness, but are held in the hands of a loving and sovereign God. This assurance gives us the courage to face life's uncertainties with confidence, knowing that He is in control. It allows us to rest in His promises, trusting that He will fulfill them in His perfect time. This hope sustains us through the challenges of waiting, reminding us that His plans are always worth the wait. Living in alignment with God's timing requires a continual surrender of our own desires and expectations. It is a daily decision to trust in His plan and to rest in His love. This surrender is not easy, but it is liberating. It frees us from the burden of trying to control outcomes and allows us to experience the peace that comes from trusting in Him. As we surrender to His timing, we begin to experience the fullness of His grace and the joy of walking in step with His will. God's timing is a reflection of His faithfulness. He is never early, never late, but always right on time. His plans for us are not hurried or rushed. They unfold with precision and purpose. This faithfulness gives us the confidence to trust Him, even when we do not understand His timing. It reminds us that He is always working for our good, orchestrating events in ways that are far beyond our comprehension. Accepting His timing is an act of faith, a declaration that we believe in His goodness and trust in His plan. The perfection of God's timing invites us to live with a sense of expectancy. It encourages us to approach each day with hope, knowing that He is at work in our lives. This expectancy is not about predicting outcomes or demanding answers, but about trusting that His plans are unfolding in ways that will bring Him glory and us joy. It is a posture of faith that looks forward with anticipation, confident in His ability to fulfill His promises. Through this expectancy, we find the strength to wait, the courage to trust, and the joy of knowing that His timing is always perfect. Life's journey is often filled with uncertainties, delays, and moments that test our patience and faith. Yet, through all of this, the consistent truth remains: God's timing is perfect. It is a divine orchestration that calls us to trust, surrender, and grow in ways we might never anticipate. In every moment of waiting, He is preparing us, refining us, and aligning our lives with His greater purpose. His delays are not denials, but opportunities for deeper dependence, transformation, and ultimately, the fulfillment of His promises. By embracing His timing, we discover not only the blessings we seek, but also the richness of a closer relationship with Him, a relationship that offers peace, strength, and a joy that transcends circumstances. Let us trust that His plans, woven with infinite love and wisdom, will always unfold at the right time. As you journey forward, may you find the courage to trust in God's perfect timing and the peace that comes from surrendering to His plans. Whatever season you are in, know that every moment is part of a beautiful story He is writing for your life. Be patient, stay hopeful, and remain steadfast in faith. Thank you for taking the time to reflect on this profound truth today. May you walk with confidence, knowing that He is with you every step of the way. Good luck, and may blessings surround you always.